Ryle had not expected his genes to turn up in any of the current series of released Faiz infants. The one currently in its relaxation tank was, according to the gene scan, 25% his. Kint, the primary genetic contributor, had a whopping 63% of his personal genome involved. There was a small community of sudden parentals, lost without a manual, working out how to parent Faiz without inherent mental programming. Thus, the infant's tank had all kinds of medical equipment attached to it, so the anxious genetic donors could monitor everything they needed to monitor. Shade had hung a clockwork mobile over it that played Brahms' lullaby. She had also managed to graft herself onto this tiny variant of a family tree, much like a sometimes symbiotic parasite. The good news was that the infant Faiz, like all Faiz, didn't waste an atom of potential nutrition, so there was no need for any kind of waste disposal. The bad news, as far as Ryle was concerned, was that this young one spent a great deal of her time sound asleep. Shade, the only co-guardian who could tell everything about the baby just by looking at her, insisted that everything was fine. "Baby spent a lot of time sleeping. They need to grow again," she assured. Meanwhile, Ryle was watching every time the baby gained even the slightest silvery sheen. He was convinced that Wave of the Future had sent the first infant in his direction in an effort to set things up for deliberate failure. He set up his tank by the infant so he would be able to perceive any kind of difference in her health levels. And despite both Shade and Kint's efforts to convince him, Ryle refused to call the baby Mole, despite that being her official name. Ryle called her Little One, or Beloved, and, if he knew Shade wasn't listening, Kitling. Mole was a joke name, a bad pun from Shade that Kint actually took seriously and found it supremely amenable. Shade, as an unrelated individual, was not allowed to share the accommodations, but she was on call and could literally arrive in the blink of an eye if necessary. Such as now. 3 in the morning, and the infant was showing signs of distress despite there being nothing medically wrong with her. Ryle had adjusted every feed, and she was still distressed. He had exhausted all possibilities of unregistered medical distress, and now he had to call Shade. She answered on the second ring with a yawning "Aye?" "Our little one's in distress, and I've tried everything," he babbled. He would later realize that he babbled it. In the Badass Biotechy, a language dialect he usually avoided for all its implications. It was true. People panicked in their home tongue, regardless of how they felt about it. "On me way," she mumbled. Knowing that Shade insisted on shadow hopping while standing, Ryle turned on a nearby lamp as he closed the comms. It still seemed to take way too long for her to coalesce out of the shadows. She was still wearing her night attire, a garment that fit only across her shoulders and fell like a gossamer waterfall from there. "Hey there, Bobby," she cooed. "Let's have a look at you." She finished scrubbing her eyes and sighed. "All right, she needs to be picked up." "How?" demanded Ryle. "She's not inclined to be cohesive just yet." Shade was already rummaging in the large container that Wave of the Future had been legally obligated to send. Products designed for infant phase care, some of which were still mysterious. There were textured gloves and a sort of pouch with an adjustable harness arrangement. "Here, this lot'll help." Ryle remembered those gloves. They came in some of his more interesting nightmares. He noted that these ones were adjusted with the baby's comfort in mind. He rubbed them together to be sure that they were at least a little warm before helping Shade move the little one into the pouch. "There's no medical monitors on this," Ryle complained. Shade moved the pouch up to near her shoulder so she could juggle the infant as he were a humanoid inside the pouch. There we are," she cooed, massaging what would have been a humanoid's back, with her other hand as her arm supported the bottom of the pouch. "You just needed a change of scene, eh? Pure wee band. Here we are, Pripper." Shade transferred the infant over, manipulating Ryle's arms into the correct grip. "Time for some good old-fashioned pacing the floor." "You called me Pripper," he murmured. "I'm not the primary parental. Kint is the majority genetic contributor." "Pripper's the one doing all the messy work and checking to see if Baby's still breathing," said Shade. "Congrats, you're Pripper. Kint does all the sleeping, so he's Zekpa." "That's hardly fair," murmured Ryle, following Shade's example of how to do the Grumpy Bubba two-step, as Shade called it. Kent's work is far more scheduled than mine. I can afford to nap between jobs. I keep telling you, you both got parental leave. You have all the time you want with me, Mol. She reacted to the baby's movement. Aye, that's you. We're talking about you. Who's a clever babby? Who's a clever babby? You is, yes, who is? Ryle sighed. He'd been through this before. Ambassador, our child does not need any of your baby talk. He can learn just as quickly without confusing syllables as you often do. Shade's ultimate response was a raspberry. The baby dipped a depression inside herself, made a pocket of air, and expelled it with a similar sound. Moll's first replicated noise, and it was a rude one. I knew you'd be a bad influence on her, Ryle growled. Farty noises are universal. Babbies love 'em. She exchanged raspberries with the infant with all evident glee. Kent stumbled into the nursery room. He, too, was wearing his Wave of the Future warming suit, tsunami emblem and all. What's going on? He queried. He hadn't bothered to make a noise. Baby's first noise, said Ryle as the raspberries continued to fly. I told you Shade would be a bad influence. Kent was far more enthusiastic, adding to the chorus of rude sounds. He took over carrying Moll and invented a kind of massage that made the baby squirm in her holding pouch. Soon enough, though, Shade pronounced the infant to be tired and helped return the nursery to an environment more conducive to sleep before all three poured the reluctant infant back into her tank. Z still managed to produce a few raspberries, but the effort soon became too much and her surface settled into ripples of slumber. One crisis averted, and a use for some of the clearly baffling equipment that had, so far, been lying idle in a box in the corner. Now all he needed to fret about was the next crisis. End scene. A merry time zone to you, and thank you for watching this presentation. I'm the Internatter, sometimes known as CM Weller on the professional writing circuit. Wish I could get there, to be honest. I wrote this story some significant time ago and read this post as a video a lot sooner than now. If you want to see these fresh, check out my PeerTube site linked down there in the dibble-dobble. Try PeerTube. It's like YouTube, but without the horse shit. If you want to read these even fresher, I may want to kiss you on the cheek and give you a big hug, but you can find them on my hub site, also linked down below. If you want to sponsor me, there's a Patreon in the link spam downstairs. New Patreon patrons will get special thanks in my next fresh tale, and maybe a picture of a critter I took while I was out in meat space. Once again, thanks to my special sponsor list on screen, or might be over there, I don't know yet. And thanks to you for watching so far. Big kiss to you. Mwah!